At this point for the Los Angeles Rams, I think it's pretty fair to say that things haven't gone exactly as planned, and especially for Jared Goff, things have not gone exactly as planned, as his numbers are nowhere close to what they were last year. He is currently at 11 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, and a passer rating nearly 20 points lower than it was last year. Last year he had a 101.1 passer rating, and this year it's all the way down to 82.7. I know, again, not using the best statistics here, but just using a broad example, I mean, those aren't pretty numbers. And so when you add on to the fact that they are now 5-4 and several games out of a playoff spot, it's not looking too good for them at this point. And so then because things have gone poorly for them, especially compared to last year when they went all the way to the Super Bowl, there's been a lot of talk and a lot of people are wondering, well, what is the problem for Los Angeles? And one of the guys that has been getting a lot of blame is Jared Goff because of his disappointing numbers. And so let's get into what exactly is going wrong with Jared Goff, because there are several things. It also should be mentioned that Jared Goff is not the only problem the Los Angeles Rams are having by any means, but we'll get into that in a second. Let's take a look at this play, for example, to start things off. It's going to be a play action, and then what they're going to do is have a receiver swoop around like that, and he will be the guy that Goff is going to actually throw this ball to. So it's kind of some trickery here. They want to make sure the Steelers don't realize that, it's not going to be a pass to the top half of the screen. And so watch how Jared Goff is going to go about making sure that he sells that this is going to be a pass to the top half of the screen. As you see, his receiver down there is continuing to run down in that direction, and he is wide open. I mean, there is nothing to be worried about in this situation. He can easily hit the receiver, and they can gain some yards, but for Goff, he wants to gain as many yards as possible, so he's going to continue looking upfield and try to just, stall. If you look at him right now, he is still looking upfield. This way, the Steelers safety and just anyone who's playing deep will make sure that they're covering up those guys. That's where their focus will be, and then that'll give even more room for his receiver that he's actually going to hit. But then he's going to do something weird here. He's going to kind of try to look over and throw at the same time, and it ends up being a backwards pass that results in a huge loss. I mean, watch. This angle will be a better example of what he's doing. Notice how he just basically looks forward, and at the last second looks over to the receiver he's trying to hit, and just terribly misses the throw. It wasn't even close because he didn't give himself the time to look over. And that's just kind of an instance of him not really just playing smart football. It's kind of an instance of him trying to do too much. It's not a long-term problem, but it is something that he will do from time to time, and it's something that he needs to get better at. Another thing I do feel like is a bit of a problem when it comes to Goff is his pocket presence. And a great example of that will be this play, where it's going to be a cover one robber, and that's the route that Goff wants to hit. It's a route that's going to cross over the middle of the field, and it will get open, but it's going to take a second for it to get open. As you see, it'll take basically until it gets outside the hash marks on the top half of the screen. That's when it should be open, hopefully, and then Goff can make the throw. And as this play develops, as you see, first things first, his receiver is winning his own one-on-one matchup, so that's step one, and it's working out. But also, again, the Steeler in the middle of the field who's right on that Pittsburgh Steelers logo, that's kind of what Goff is waiting for. He's waiting until his receiver gets past him, then he can make the throw and get the first down on this play. But worth mentioning, because this play is taking a while, this now means that you have to be aware of the pocket. You have to make sure that you get enough time since this is more of a developing play. And so, as you see right here, there's a Steeler doing a pretty good job of winning his own one-on-one matchup. He's pushing his assigned man pretty far deep, which now means that for Goff, what you should do in this situation is maybe run up a little bit to the top half of the screen, or just take a step back or two and then make the throw, because you need to make sure you have the time to make this throw. However, instead, Goff isn't going to move. He's going to get hit as he's thrown, and the ball is nowhere close because he was hit as he was thrown. I mean, when you try to have that much time, eventually your offensive line isn't going to hold up, usually. Now, that wasn't the case last year. Last year, the offensive line would constantly hold up, but sometimes it won't hold up, and you still have to get the throw out of there, so you'll have to move around in the pocket, and that is one of Goff's weaknesses, is just moving around in general, really. That's just not where he thrives, and it has shown this season with the offensive line not playing as well as it has in years past. I do think that his lack of mobility, so to speak, is kind of a hindrance, and it does mean that you do have to have some good offensive line play if you're going to be successful with Jared Goff as your quarterback. Like this one's another good example of that, where you're going to have your three receivers basically all run deep on the top half of the screen, and then your halfback just runs underneath him. Pretty simple play, designed to gain some yards, and take a look at what's going to happen right when this ball is snapped. Specifically on the offensive line. If you look, both of the tackles are doing a pretty good job on this play. So, for Goff, it's no big deal. He's going to step up a little bit in the pocket, and that's his halfback who he has to hit. Again, keep in mind, this is an easy throw. Goff should just step up in the pocket and make that throw. It should not be too difficult to make this play. However, when Goff steps up in the pocket and tries to make this throw, because he was kind of moving and off balance when he made the throw, it just fell incomplete. It was a bad throw, and it was a bad throw because he was moving. If he is stationary in that moment, he's easily making that throw 10 out of 10 times. But Goff just, he's a different quarterback when you have to move him around, and when he's moving around, he's just not as effective. He's great when you're not moving, but, that's kind of the dilemma with Goff. You're not always going to be amazing on the run. He has had some good plays on the run. I'm not trying to say that he can never make those types of throws, but he's definitely much better when he doesn't have to move around too much. And, he's borderline elite when he doesn't have to move around too much, but when he does, that's when he gets some problems. And it also just absolutely does have to be mentioned that it is far from all Jared Goff's fault. I am not giving Jared Goff all of the blame. The offensive line just hasn't played as well this season. It just hasn't. And there's absolutely no better example of that than this play, where what's going to happen is that's the route that Goff wants to hit. Not too difficult of a route. It'll take a second to get going, but it won't take forever to get going. This is it's kind of a medium distance type throw. It'll take a medium amount of time until Goff has to make this throw. And so as you see, right when the ball is snapped, it takes till about now until Goff can make this throw. This is the first time that his receiver is turning back and Goff can even think about making the throw. This is the exact instance where he can make the throw. But if you look at the line, he's in trouble. This line just did not hold up long enough for this play to develop. So when Goff makes the throw, really when he should, it ends up getting fumbled out actually. It results in a fumble, and that's ending up being a defensive touchdown simply because the line couldn't hold for the play. That wasn't Goff's fault. Maybe he should have just gone down, but the reality is, if Goff wanted to make that throw, that's the exact time Goff should make that throw. And there was nowhere for him to go in the pocket either. He just had to stand in there and hopefully make the throw in time. And just, he got beat a little bit quicker. Someone beat him and was able to get the fumble, and it resulted in a touchdown. I know everyone just looks at the stats and says, oh, hey, look, there's a fumble, so therefore Goff sucks. But that's not really the case. In a situation like that, there's not really too much you can do there. Just to be clear, I am not exonerating Goff. Definitely pocket presence is something he really has to work on, but there's more problems there when it comes to the offensive line than just Goff, and that does have to be mentioned. And what also should be mentioned is a play like this, where it's going to be a fake screen pass to the top half of the screen, so you'll have your 3 eligible receivers on the top half of the screen, run those routes right there, or not really routes, but 2 guys go out the block, another one steps back to take a potential screen. But it's not going to be a screen pass in that direction. Instead, they're just going to have their halfback run out to the bottom half of the screen, and it'll be their receiver on the bottom half of the screen and their center going out to block the 2 Steelers in the area. And after the ball is snapped, it works out, and as you see, that's the throw that Goff has to make. So it's kind of difficult because there is a defensive lineman and offensive lineman in the way, but again, Goff's a tall guy. He can make these types of throws. At least that's what we would say. However, he just missed the throw. Listen, missed throws are going to happen, but at the same time, Goff usually makes those throws. At least as of last year, he was making those throws 10 out of 10 times. Now it seems like he's kind of making those throws 8 out of 10 times. He's still not terrible at it, but definitely it has gone down a little bit. I wouldn't call his accuracy a problem, but it hasn't been as elite as it was last year. I feel like part of that might just be he's getting a little bit nervous about protection and things of that nature, which is a fair thing when your offensive line was so good at blocking last year, and this year has taken a step back. But at the same time, if we're making a video on what are Jared Goff's problems, to me that is not necessarily a problem, but that has been a step back for him this year. And one more thing I keep saying these things have to be mentioned, and I say it that way because I don't want to mention this. I want Jared Goff to be great. I want most players in the NFL to be great, I take no joy in a player taking a step back after having a great season last year. I predicted Jared Goff to an MVP this year, so I was very wrong about how the Rams season was going to go. I don't think Jared Goff is a bad quarterback. I do think he has some bad traits he has to work on, and the biggest one was the one that, really came to bite him in the Super Bowl, which was his post-snap reading ability, which was not great last year for the most part, especially in the Super Bowl, and it has had some problems this year as well, and this play is a great example of that. They're going up against the cover 3 zone, and they have a great concept to beat cover 3. What they're going to do is have one of the receivers run that route right there, which hopefully in theory will get the defensive back in charge of covering that zone to move in a little bit, because then they can send another player over there, and hopefully he'll get wide open. That's just the hope anyways, and that's the way this play will often work out when you play it out. However, it doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes it can be played well. Like, as you see right here, what's happening is that those two Steelers players are realizing what's going on, and so the Steeler on the top half of the screen is saying, hey, you on the bottom half of the screen, you got him, okay, cool, I'll stay back here because there's another Ram in the area. The Rams do this a lot, so we're prepared for it. So now, even though that player is, going to beat the linebacker, because that's what you would expect, now there's going to be another Steeler who's in the area, so Goff can't make this throw. As you see right now, Goff should realize, okay, can't make that throw even though I wanted to. Let me find a check down or throw the ball away or something. However, he still just tries to make that throw anyways, which is just a huge mistake and it results in an interception. Goff just can't be making those mistakes at this point. He can't. It's his 4th year now, which is, he's still young. I'm not trying to say he's not young, but he's at the point now where he has to start working on these things, especially if the Rams are going to go all in and trade 2 first-round picks on Jalen Ramsey. He has to play at a higher level. He just does. They gave him a big contract to be elite. They gave him a big contract to win MVPs, not to be a mediocre quarterback. So, again, I don't want to come off as too negative. I like Jared Goff. I don't think the Rams are screwed. I think their playoff hopes this year are looking pretty rough, but I don't think that they're out of it necessarily. And I don't think Jared Goff's a bad quarterback either. I really don't. Maybe some people will disagree. I don't know. I do not think Jared Goff is a bad quarterback. I think he has some problems, though, and he needs to work on those problems if the Rams are going to be able to turn it around. That's just my opinion. The reality is you can't be borderline throwing more interceptions than touchdowns. You just can't. And of course, Jared Goff knows all this. I mean, he would tell you the same thing. I mean, these things that he's putting on tape aren't necessarily too great. But at the same time, he absolutely has the ability to turn it around. He absolutely has that ability. Let's just hope that he does. I mean, I guess unless you're a 49ers, Cardinals, or Seahawks fan, then you probably hope he stays this way. But, and again, he's not a mess, but he has some room for improvement. That's just my opinion. If you guys disagree, let me know in the comments below. And anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, thanks for watching.